Okay, welcome everyone. I am Laurent Quinet, CEO and co-founder of Novable. I'm happy to see some familiar names here. Thank you for joining us today. So what will we do? What will we do today? 30 minutes, one guest, one conversation. That's the format. We are not here to give you slides or sell you a methodology. We're here because we want to discuss a question that keeps coming up in almost every conversation we have with large organizations. And we thought it deserved more than, let's say, a LinkedIn post. And that question is, where does innovation actually break down? Not in theory, but in practice, inside real organizations with real budgets or real teams and a real pressure to deliver. At Novable, we work at the intersection of large companies and startups every day. And we help corporations scout for external innovation, identify the right partners, validate them, and then engage with emerging technologies. And what we see repeatedly is that the scouting itself is rarely the hard part. The hard part is what happens next, the integration, the handoff, the moment when two walls with different vocabularies, different timelines, and different definitions of success have to actually work together. That moment where things get complicated. That's what we want to explore today. And to do that, we brought in someone who has spent his career living in those in-between spaces. Dr. Dominic Mikulin, welcome. Is a technology and business incubation architect at Fujitsu, which means he's professionally responsible for making things work across silos that were never designed to talk to each other. So he put it clearly in his own words, the single biggest constant issue, whether between project managers and product managers or between corporates and startups, is the lack of understanding between silos. And I find that refreshingly unvarnished because it's not a structural problem, not even a strategic problem, it's a human understanding problem. And we believe that is worth 30 minutes, right? So the conversation will be hosted by Irene Violetta, our client success manager, who works with clients on exactly those challenges every day, and of course with Fujitsu. It will be unscripted, and there will be room for your questions at the end. So please use the chat to do so. That's it for me. Irene, over to you.
Laurent, do you hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Laurent, for the introduction. But before starting our discussion, Dominique, since everyone can see us, but we cannot see our audience, we would like to push a small poll that you will find on the right tab. Voila, it's on already, just to get a sense of who is in the room with us today. So also for you, Dominique, who you are talking to. So we'll leave some time to the audience to reply, and we can start by introducing you. As Laurent said, you've always worked in the middle, so you've always been between managers and technical people. So, for example, R&D engineers, managers, and boards. So basically, in between technical people who do the work, and those who take decisions, who make decisions, strategic ones. And you yourself, you've been R&D engineer in the beginning of your career. Then you've been co-founder of 2 deep tech startups. You've been an innovation strategist yourself. Now you're an innovation consultant. You've also been a mentor for entrepreneurs. So, I mean, you've done the tour. you tested all the roles possible. So we wanted to know, for a start, what does it take to work always in between other roles, and also how did you end up in this specific position?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I didn't end up in this position on purpose. I think it started during my PhD because I did a PhD in liquid crystal displays. And there you bring physicists and chemists and material scientists together. And as a benchtop scientist, obviously I thought everything was about getting the technology right. But I discovered during the time in my PhD that actually the biggest problem is that we all talk different languages. We all have specialist vocabulary to enable the chemists to talk together, the physicists to talk together, and that is great. It really makes it more efficient for us all, for people in the same category to work together. But as soon as you have to work with someone else, there's a problem. And I discovered this and found out that to make the progress work, you had to break down those barriers. And people don't like often being in those gaps between specialisms. You like to feel connected to one specialist field. And so I put myself there accidentally to start with, and discovered that all of a sudden, if you can translate between the different specialisms, suddenly work gets done. Suddenly there's a respect for each other, and you can see why you're all going in the same direction.
Okay, so, and do you think that it's really that lack of common language that breaks down the innovation process, or is there something else as well?
When I started work, I was a consultant. And once again, I was actually at the bench creating new technologies, always doing the difficult things, things that large international companies had tried to do and failed. They'd come to a consultancy and we'd do it like magic. And it really was some really tricky science and technology we were doing. But what I discovered was, even no matter how hard the technology is that we try and do, people problems are always harder than technology problems. Getting people on the same page, getting people motivated to do the same thing, always far more difficult than the actual science. And so I ended up getting interested in psychology to some extent, because to achieve what you're trying to do, to give deliverables, it's not just about the science. It's about getting everyone on board, moving in the same direction.
Okay, very interesting. I was having a look at the poll, and indeed, the majority of people in the audience are part of an innovation team. So I guess that this conversation will be very much interesting, and I hope we'll bring also some tips for others to put in place. So first, do you have an example or some tips on how to put everyone on the same page? You have these different parties. Okay, we understand you need to be some sort of a translator, but of language. And you said also maybe a psychologist to some extent. But how do you do it?
I think it's one of the places where startups have a unique advantage, because when you're a small team, you don't have to do anything. You're all on the same page. You all understand the same goal. Everyone is working dedicated towards exactly the same goal. The problem arises as soon as companies start growing. In a startup, you have 2 or 3 or so founders, and they have to do everything. They have to appreciate every part of the job, from getting a customer to developing the technology to making the sales to working out the whole infrastructure of how to deliver product. But as soon as you start growing, you get the specialists in. And the problem there is that these days we recruit for specialisms. It's all automated, and you look for keywords. You make sure someone's had 5 years of mechanical engineering experience or 10 years doing AI or whatever it might be. No one recruits for the gaps. And as soon as you have specialisms, gaps happen. So what does the project manager say to the program manager, say to the product manager? They are slightly different. Even worse is that often, as soon as a company starts growing, you get HR functions of things like metrics, performance metrics. So to achieve your salary, to achieve your bonus, you have to do a certain number of specialist things. And people tend to spend a few minutes writing these performance metrics, but they're the most important thing in a company, because the employee will work towards that metric. And if that metric is do 5 things in your specialism, and that's it, that's where the problem arises. Because unless one of your metrics is to successfully integrate with the other teams, with the other silos in large companies, and make sure that you transfer the knowledge, the technology, the progress you've made, everything starts breaking down. And I've worked in some very large companies, and the silos are enormous, and the respect between the specialisms is non-existent. They all think they're doing their job. They're all performing to their own metrics, but it doesn't make a company. It makes 20 different divisions doing their own separate thing. And so that is the problem. Trying to work out how to bring people to a common goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a bit shocked to hear that there's also lack of respect. But how do you manage that? Because I mean, if it's only a problem of technical language, of speaking the same language, to understand, to present a project and make them understand that it's something that has to be involve everyone. But okay, we can do that. We can learn both parties' language. But what about lack of respect? How do you overcome that?
Lack of respect is a tough one, and I have lived through that in a very large multinational, and it was actually between product managers and project managers. So the project manager is the one who is trying to get a new product out. The product manager is the one that interfaces with the customer to try and deliver this new product. And they had drifted apart, partially because the technology went from technology focus to customer focus. And so the product managers became in charge, and they would dictate, we need this new feature, we need this new feature, but had no understanding of the engineering behind how to make these things. So the project managers were just given this long list of, you must make a new product like this. It doesn't matter if it is possible or not, you need to make it because that's what our customers want. And so there was an animosity growing there because, you know, the project managers simply said, some of these things are impossible. We can't do it at all. We can't do it for the price. We can't do it in the time scale. But of course, the project managers didn't want to hear that because they had already set their launch date. And so in that particular situation, it stopped progress for several years in this big company. Every project had got stopped at an early stage development. And this is, I discovered the root cause was not technology problems or lack of customers. It was this lack of respect between two groups within the same company. And so that was pretty dire. Yeah. And I tried talking to both sides to start with, and there was a lot of almost hatred, in fact. So in the end, I brought them together into one room. and
then it was fire.
I didn't allow any physical violence, but there were very ripe words exchanged. And once they'd got it all off their chest, once they felt better, that they shouted at their enemy, then I gave them a common ground. You know, why are we here? What are we trying to do? And it wasn't in one meeting, but we built up from enemies a slow respect for each other, and that both parties are important when getting a product out, and both do their own thing, but they have to understand what that is.
Wow. So you really set up this verbal boxing match, but eventually it worked, no?
It was an extreme solution, but yeah, I couldn't find a diplomatic way of getting these two teams together. They'd spent too long hating each other.
Wow. But so usually the first thing that you try to do is really to go and see individually people or really the group and listen to them, listen to the reasons. And then if it doesn't work, then you put everybody in the same room and make them listen to each other.
You hit on the key part, listening. This is something common to every role I've had in every company I've had. People love to tell you stuff, but you have to listen as well. A lot of people don't like to listen, or if they're in a conversation, they are waiting for you to stop talking so they can tell you what they want to tell you. And this is the same all through business. The trouble is, if you have to communicate, it does involve both ways. You have to listen and then talk. And so in the same company, in fact, I was taken in with salespeople, and I was asked, let's make sure these customers want this new product. And I'd go in, and the salesperson would start talking straight away after the hellos. They would start saying, "Here's our new product. We've got these features. Do you like it?" And I had to tell them off and say, "How about we listen first?" And I saved a several £1 million product development by doing just that, because we went in with our new product idea, and I stopped the salesman. The person, the customer enjoyed it. I said, could we just wait for a moment? Let's have a chat. We're human beings. Let's have a chat. And then I asked the customer, what are the problems in the day? What sort of things do you face? Trying to work out what their problems actually are and if we can fix them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discovered, rather than new product development, all they needed was a different way of presenting information. That was it. Zero development cost on our part, instant turnaround for the customers, and a massive uplift in sales for the existing product, just by listening rather than telling.
Oh. Listening is really the tool, as far as I understand. That's the thing to do. And I wonder, because, okay, listening is a word, okay? You have to listen. It can seem easy, but I guess that sometimes you try to make parties listen to each other at the office, and it still doesn't work. Has there ever been a moment where you had to go the extra mile, do something more than just gather people at the office or having meetings on Teams? I don't know, for example, go out for a party or an event or something.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're in charge, it's easy because there's two ways of doing it. The forceful way, which is to tell people to do stuff, or the fact that you should be the leader, not the boss. And as you say at the start, I have run 2 companies myself, and it's a lot easier with a small team. They're usually together, but there can be frictions. And so I chose a couple of different ways of resolving those. One was a lunchtime walk. I would invite a member of staff to have a walk with me. And we were on a science park. It was very nice. You could just go for a nice walk on a summer's day, or at least when it isn't raining. And all of a sudden, barriers break down. You're not the boss anymore. You're just someone who's walking with them. And they will tell you what the problems are. You don't even have to ask. You just start walking. They want to have some conversation. And so they think the first thing to talk about is work, because you're there with a work colleague. And so they'll tell you the issues. And all you have to do is listen and fix it from there. Sometimes
it's a little bit like, sorry to interrupt, but Dominic, it made me think of Undercover Boss. Do you know the TV show where the boss, they dress up and then they indeed start talking to their employees. Of course,
that's sort of the extreme nature, isn't it? Because they are pretending to just be a standard employee in order to get the real feelings of the employees out. But yeah, it's a very similar thing. You've got to make someone feel comfortable to open up and to tell you the real problems, not what they think you want to hear, not what they think the boss wants to hear, but what actually is the problem. And sometimes the walk wasn't enough, and I had to bring out the really big guns, which was take the team to the pub and buy them. And I think that always fixed all the problems.
Nice one. And I wonder, because we have a few minutes left, but I wonder, so we overcame the first breaking point of innovation. So the lack of understanding, lack of respect. Okay, it's fixed. We went to the pub, we had a good beer, and then eventually we had a good laugh. And now we know we have to work on a joint innovation project, let's say. How do you make sure that both parties don't get caught up in their busy jobs and forget about the project? How do you keep this momentum going, this enthusiasm that you have just created by unifying them?
Well, I think once they understand each other, I mean, it's the same thing, whether you're in divisions of a company or it's a company talking to an external partner, a startup or whoever it might be. Once you, each other, I think everything becomes a lot easier in the first place, because you understand why you're working together, rather than it being simply a command from above. You must create the product. With understanding comes willingness to explore. I think people need to make sure that we go back to the metrics, that the metrics for both parties are there to help success. Okay. If a person is full-time on their day job and then they're told, now you have to form a collaboration with this other company and find a new product development, well, if it's not in their metrics, it'll always come second because they want their bonus at the end of the year,
Of
really.
course.
So I think incentivized to the common goal is the key thing. So you understand each other, and then you are incentivized to work together. That's all it takes. It's, it isn't sadly rocket science. It isn't something you need a course of 10 parts for 5 hours or something. It's simply understand each other, respect each other, and have a common goal.
Perfect. Okay, so if I understand correctly, first is listening, then is understanding, and then is incentivize all the parties to keep going towards the same goal. Because of course we are always very busy, but at least if we understand that our job has also a toll on our metrics, it helps. But so we still have 10 minutes left. There might be some questions. So we also want to push a poll to know if people in the audience have already tried your approach, Dominic. So I have tried already to be this sort of psychologist to their parties, and I see that so far no one has clicked on yes. So I guess it's something quite groundbreaking, which is good.
I think it's the interesting thing is something that we talk about a lot. It seems totally obvious. What I've said has not come as a shock to anyone, but when you're in the situation, it's the hardest thing to see.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the sum of this really is, just talking to each other, just listening is all it takes. There's no complicated 10-point method. It's simply respect each other as humans and decide what you're going to do together.
I have some questions. Let's see, we still have some time. Yeah, this one is interesting. I don't know if do you see it?
I can see it, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so for an accelerator program that focuses on scaling sustainability startups through our corporate partners' supply chains, what makes large organizations successfully adopt external innovation at scale, rather than leaving it stuck in pilots?
The pilot death.
The pilot death. Okay.
Yeah, I think once again this is about metrics, isn't it? Because when you have pilots as a successful point in your roadmap, and they're quite easy to do a pilot. It just takes a small commitment from both sides, and you can do a pilot, proof of concept, whatever you want to call it, and you go, yes, it works. The trouble is, especially with a large organization, the amount of effort required to change anything at all. This is the analogy of a speedboat and a cruise ship. So the startup is the speedboat, can go in any direction all the time, instantly changing direction. The cruise ship, no matter how much you want to, it takes a long time to change the direction. And so how to get out of the pilot death point is you need buy-in on the company on all sides. So this is about understanding who makes decisions in the company. Well, first of all, it's with the heads of the groups who wanted to do the research in the first place. Then it'll be the business unit on top of that. Then it might be board level. So for each level, you have to basically explain why it's valuable. Even if it's self-evident to you. If you've been working on this for a long time, of course, the benefits are absolutely evident, but you have to explain it and translate it. So there'll be some people financially motivated only. So you have to talk about return on investment. There's some people who want to make sure they stay ahead of their competitors. So you have to explain what sort of leeway this gives you, a year's head start on someone else or whatever it might be. So that's the key, is to have this information available in the different languages that the different levels of the corporation will appeal to. And then it will only then get to board level. And if you get that buy-in, if someone says, we need this, make it happen, all of a sudden you have the momentum. Until then, it's the small people in the organization being very excited and just making noise as far as the top level people are concerned.
Okay. All right. So for once, you will have to be the person that has to be heard. So not listening, but there you have to explain.
But you have to listen first to understand who's making the decisions and what language to speak to them in. You know, if you talk, I think I did a lot of time in healthcare, and you think, well, obviously they'll all be bothered about patient outcomes. But no, often the CFO is the one who makes the decisions, and it's all about return on investment. So no matter if it's a cancer drug or something that helps you, move your fingers, no matter what it is, it's how will this make me a bigger return on my investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Another question for you, Dominic. Talking about language, would it be possible to have your definition of innovation, I would say?
Oh, have you seen my presentation? This is so invention is easy. It's something new, something that hasn't been thought of before. You can embody it, and a new mousetrap, a new way of doing anything you want. Innovation is something new in the way it's done that has use, is my definition. So it's only an innovation if there's a use for it. It doesn't have to be money making, but it has to be useful.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I see that we have 4 minutes left. I guess okay, there is a last one, then maybe we can go quickly on. I'm 2 years into corporate innovation. Is it worth staying long term? I guess there might be some hardships that have to be overcome.
It depends if you're talking from the perspective of being in the big company or the small company in this respect. If you are the small company, then that is a lifetime for you to be waiting for some outcome. So the answer would be no, unless you can think of a way of speeding things along, maybe working out how to convince the people in the big company. If you're in the big company, well, that's what I do. I try and create innovation and get it out there into the world, and it is hard work. So you have to be a little masochistic, because it's painful at times. But my aim is to try and get these innovations that deserve to see the light of day into the real world. And so, if it takes a little bit of effort, if it's a bit painful at times, if it's a bit slow at times, it's worth it to get them out there.
Okay, nice. So we have 2 minutes left. Sorry for being a little bit hasty, but I think we got a lot out of this conversation, and I will get it back to Laurent so we can wrap up in the meantime. But thank you so much, Dominic. It was really insightful.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Yes. Also, for the audience, you can connect with Dominic. We have just posted a link you will see under the video. There's a green button, connect with Dominic. If you click on that, you will land on his LinkedIn page.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much, Dominic and Irene. It was a very interesting conversation. I really love this quick and honest format, and I'm sure that the audience got really valuable insights today. And be sure that there will be more like this in the future. That's really, really nice. Thank you, everyone. We will make the recording available for all registered attendees. You'll hear from us soon for links, etc. It was really nice to have you, and really eager to see you for next time. Thank you again, Dominic and Irene. It was very nice.
One last thing before we say goodbye. I see that we also got a few other questions. Don't you worry, Dominic will answer them, and we will put everything into a small blog post, so nothing will be left unanswered.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Continue the conversation. Right below, you have a new green button, and you will land on our page.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.